Let's get into my spoiler-free movie review of the week. I want to talk about one of the best dramas I've seen in the last 10 years, The Whale, starring Brendan Fraiser, where he plays an English teacher who is now completely confined to the walls of his apartment. He lost a loved one and as a result has entered into a depression where he is now eating to escape, to cope with his feelings, and he is in the process of eating himself to death. And in his lowest moment, he is trying to reconnect with his daughter, in the movie played by Sadie Sink, who you would know from Stranger Things, and just show her how special she is to him and have one real life moment before he may or may not pass away due to his obesity. So this movie hit me on a lot of emotional levels that I will get into, but before I get into my full review of The Whale, here is just a little bit of the trailer.
Where'd you gain all that weight?
Someone close to me passed away, and it had an effect on me.
You haven't seen her since she was 8 years old and you're gonna reconnect with her?
Sorry.
I don't like this. This isn't a good idea.
I'm sorry.
You say you're sorry one more time, I will shove a knife right into you, I swear to God.
Go ahead. What's it gonna do? My internal organs are 2 feet in at least.
So Brendan Fraser as Charlie does an amazing job, and I have never fallen in love with the character as fast that I did with Charlie. Right away, you learn about his story, how he is living in his apartment. For the most part, spends the entirety of his day on the couch, has everything delivered to him. He is an English teacher, so he teaches online and keeps his camera off the entire time so his students have no idea what he looks like because he is ashamed of himself, and he doesn't eat to nourish his body in any way. He really only eats to escape. And there are several moments in this movie where you witness his binge eating, and it's the only time he feels like he has some kind of control over things. And even though he is on the brink of death, he can't stop it. And it really shows you how obesity and struggling with overeating, it's not just a thing of like, oh, you just eat a lot. It's honestly, in this movie, shown for the first time I've ever seen it described as a mental illness. And that resonated with me a lot because I am somebody who has struggled with my weight. For the majority of my life, I have been overweight. And in the last 8 years, I have made a decision to get healthy. But I had my rock bottom moments, and there were several things in this movie that I really identified with because I had never seen them portrayed in a movie. I really love the way they handled that. Coming from somebody who has dealt with some of these things, I felt they handled it perfectly. They handled the character of Charlie so well because they never poke fun at him. And I think you could think of a movie called The Whale, which is also a metaphor for something else discussed in the movie that I don't want to ruin for you, where you could easily make a movie like this and think, ha, 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 I am laughing at that guy because he's overeating. In no way do you feel that. So I'm glad that it was taken seriously and handled really well. Myself personally, the things I identified in this movie is in those moments where he is binge eating. I think at a point in my life, I had a really unhealthy relationship with food to the point where I think I was addicted to eating bad food for me. And I think it's because I felt like it was the only thing that I could control. I was a very shy and quiet kid and didn't have a whole lot of friends as a result of that. And I would always kind of find comfort in eating. And I think I hit my lowest point probably from the stretch of 2011 to like 2013 is when I decided to get healthy. And I would do something called bottoming out. And all my life I'd been overweight, so I'd always tried to lose weight and I failed time and time again. So I would have weekends where I would try to go eat at as many fast food restaurants in my short little radius around my apartment. I'd get burgers, I'd get pizza. I knew I was at my really low point when I was going to Long John Silver's, and even they were looking at me like, really, dude? Like, you're gonna eat here? The thing about food and eating like this is you have that sense of like, oh, I can control this. You have this sense of anticipating the food you're going to get and thinking it's going to be great. But for me, I would get it, I would eat it, and then I would immediately feel awful about myself, not only physically because of all the grease and sugar I just ate, but also just feeling like, oh man, like this is the low point I'm at. And I was, at a point where I needed to lose weight because I weighed myself and then I looked at it, just to see how I was compared to what I should be for my height. I'm like 5'7", 5'8". I was pushing 300 pounds. And I think it was seeing on a scale and for my body size, that being obese, that was kind of a wake-up call to me. And the thing about this cycle, what I call bottoming out, is I think, all right, I'm going to eat terribly, get it all out of my system, and then the next day I'm going to start. But then that next day, it's almost like you need to feel and feel that addiction again because it just kind of keeps coming. And really, that's the only thing that made me feel good. So I would try to eat better. I would try to exercise, and it didn't work. I would go back and start doing all my old habits again. So it was a vicious cycle until one day, again, that period of my life where I was at my heaviest, was at my lowest. Like, there are no pictures of me from 2011 to like early 2013 because I didn't like being in front of the camera at all. So that was my low point. And now 2023, I have lost over 100 pounds and kept it off for 8+ years now. But I still always have that feeling of like, man, knowing how my personality works and knowing that I have that feeling too, like Charlie has in the movie, that I could go back to that. So I have made a lot of changes in my life that I feel I still need to fine tune. But I know it's something that maybe even you listening right now struggle with. And know that it's also a mental thing too, more than, oh, you just love food and you should control that. No, it's not it at all. So if you've ever felt that, if you're dealing with that now, I completely sympathize with you. And just know that I am rooting for you too. And I am somebody who, I didn't think I could do it. I didn't think I could lose the weight. I didn't think I could get healthy. And I wanted that so bad for Charlie in this movie too. So I just completely loved his story. I love that the entire movie took place in one location, all in his apartment, and the movie is based on a play, so I think a lot of that has to do with it. It kind of has that same feeling of a play, of all the characters kind of come in and out, and I think for that reason it helps keep the story moving along really well. At times, this movie even kind of feels like a fairy tale. These very elaborate things kind of happen, and I think that's really important for a pretty straight-ahead drama like this. And not only does Brendan Fraiser give the performance of his career, I think he deserves Best Actor. I think the movie deserves Best Picture. But also the supporting cast is really great. And I got to give it to Sadie Sink, who delivers such a vicious performance, such a mature performance for somebody of her age. And at no point did I really think of her as the girl from Stranger Things with Kate Bush in her headphones. She really kind of, for me, established herself as a really great young actress who I think has a lot of potential to do a really great job of continuing on in dramas post Stranger Things and post The Whale. And I think at some point in this movie, I just felt something crack in my brain, something crack in my heart made of concrete, to where I really felt like this movie hit me in all the feels, and probably the closest I've been to crying in a movie in a very long time. And I think that's because I saw a little bit of myself in Charlie. I know a lot of people who go through this and are unable to explain their situation to other people who don't really get it. If you've never been overweight, you don't really know what it's like. So I love that this story is out there. So in one word, I just think that this movie is beautiful. So if you're looking for a movie to make you feel, take you on an emotional roller coaster, and experience one of the greatest dramatic characters that you will root for throughout the entire movie, look no further than The Whale. I give it 4.5 out of 5 Charlies.